Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. And today I have another great guest for you. It's Jeni Juranics, Hawk Moon Retreat, who I have interacted with quite a lot online. And then poor Jeni, before I've even hit record, I've grilled her about so much stuff. She's probably exhausted. Welcome, Jeni.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I really am looking forward to this. I just love you so much.
I really love you too. And I'm really excited to have you here. So excited that I just hit you with a load of questions before we even got going. So sorry about that, but also not, because it was really interesting.
Yeah.
So I know that we're very similar. You have a tour going on at the moment where you're demonstrating mediumship in Canada. You do private readings. I know you're very booked up with them, but you do offer them. You've also got your podcast, Spirit Call. But what I like to start with always is how you got started. So can you tell us how you ended up doing this for a living?
Absolutely. It was after a period of time in my life where I was really searching for my purpose. I think this happens to a lot of us mediums, right? Where we kind of are looking everywhere else, but not at the thing that's right in front of us.
Yeah.
So my grandfather passed away, and we had a little bit of a complicated relationship within the family. The dynamic was a little bit wonky at the end there. And after about 2 years of questioning, where did he go? What happened to him? You know, he was the first person that I lost that I was really close with.
Yeah.
I went to have a reading for myself. And while I was there, I realized, oh, it's that subtle. This is how it works. I think I can do this too. I had already been a Reiki master for many years, really into the angel cards and the crystals and all that stuff. But I just didn't know. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't
Mhm.
know how mediumship worked. So once I discovered and experienced it for myself, it all fell into place really quickly after that.
I love it. So you weren't haunted by an apparition as a child or anything like that. You came to it through your loss.
Yep.
And so what did you do when you decided you wanted to learn? How did you learn?
Well, I don't know. I think I started I started doing readings after a month of realizing that I could do readings.
Yeah.
The first thing I did was just take to YouTube. That's actually how I found you too. But I watched interviews of other mediums. I
Yeah.
wanted to understand how it worked for them. And then I would picture, okay, if that were me, how would that work for me? And is that the same, do I feel the same way?
Yeah.
And I didn't take any trainings. I didn't do any circles. I didn't, I read a few books, but I really just said, okay, spirit, if I'm supposed to do this, then I expect you to help me figure out how to do this. And
Wow.
that's it. It was very quick. I know that you're really into the law of attraction and Abraham Hicks stuff. At the time, I was as well. And I just said, okay, um, bring the experiences. I want to attract the right people, the people that need me, the people that I can help most. Just guide me. And I looked at other mediums and I said, if they can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
So I just decided from the
I
beginning
love
that I'll
it.
just do that. I have a brain. We all have connection to spirit. I have a body to receive messages and impressions. And so
You just did it.
I
I
just
love
did it.
it.
Yeah.
So when you went for your first reading that set you on this path, had you ever had any sort of reading before? Was it
Nothing.
just, and you just, what, woke up one day and thought, I'm gonna see if I can get hold of my grandfather? Like,
No, it was an interesting moment because my mother-in-law had went to see this medium, and then my sister-in-law, we bumped into each other on the sidewalk, and she said, I'm going to see a medium. And I had this full body knowing I'm supposed to do that. It kind of felt like my mother-in-law went and my sister-in-law went to get me to go.
yeah,
My whole, something said you need to go. So I went the next week. Yeah.
amazing. I love that. And I've got so many questions just about this. And then you started doing readings. What were you doing for a job at that stage?
I
Set
was
the
a
scene for
mom.
me. You're a
Stay at home
mum.
mom. Yeah. I had, so like I said, I was doing Reiki. I did a few like Reiki trainings, Reiki treatments and things like that. But then I had kids. And during like pregnancy and childbirth, that's when my psychic development really began. I think
Mhm.
just being pregnant, we're so much more connected to energy, and things really did open up for me psychically during that time. So again, it was kind of like I'm searching and it's the thing that's right in front of me, but I couldn't
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was looking for my passion. I was doing, art and woodworking, and I had little businesses, but none of them ever felt like my thing
Yeah.
until
But
that
I
read.
bet that was all training for what then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I mean, I was a PA at a music school, and you would think that had no correlation to being a medium, but actually, it taught me lots of stuff that I needed about running a business to be able to
Exactly.
do this. And
Right.
all, yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many different.
I love connecting the dots of those things.
Yeah, yeah, me
And
too. You go,
photography as
oh,
well, so not only would I like somehow know what the people would be wearing before they showed up, sometimes I would even know their names before they came, but then you're looking into their energy, into their soul, right? Through,
yeah,
so yeah, when you look back as a medium, I think every one of us can probably connect previous experiences that led us to this point, right? Super
yeah,
cool.
for sure. I love it. I love it. So, in that scenario, do you believe that this was a divinely guided path, or do you believe that you chose it, or something in between?
I think it was, I think I chose it a long time ago. As a kid, I was always interested in this. I think I just came here knowing that this was eventually going to happen, but not knowing, right?
Yeah,
I think it was divinely guided. I think because I was asking and searching, and nothing has ever, I've never really fit into any box, um, anything like that. I think so. I don't think that, mediums are born. I think we can develop.
yeah,
It's not that, but there were a lot of synchronicities at that time when I was discovering my mediumship, that when I look back, it's
yeah.
crazy. I wish it was always like that, in the beginning when everything's so
Me
magical.
too.
Now it's just normal.
I know, and I don't think I was paid enough attention to it when it was like that at the beginning. I wish I'd really been in the magic. I thought the magic was going to last forever,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, does it? Because you get
Oh,
acclimatized to it, and then
yeah.
so fascinating. So you've got your. Did you practice on friends first? Did you go straight to paid clients? What did
I
you
went
decide to?
straight. I did. I've always been a little bit worried about sharing this story because you hear so much about developing in a circle for many, many years before you're ready to take money. And I think that for some people, maybe that's what's needed. I think it depends on how well you know yourself, how well you know your mind, how attuned you are to your energy and the energy of other people. But I really just went straight to charging. I think I did one reading, and then I did a group of 5 people, and that was like a donation thing. I know. I'm like, why don't I just go straight to a group? And then I guess I did practice on a few random people, but I went straight to charging. Yeah.
And don't be ashamed of that, because this is why I
Yeah.
want different people on the podcast, because there might be other people getting that call who are like, who am I to do this? And
Yeah.
so we need to talk honestly about our journeys, and not just the sort of sanitized Hollywood version of I woke up, there was an apparition in my room, they told me I would be a medium, it was my divine path, a unicorn led me down it, and
Yeah.
open up to other ways. Now this is really interesting, because I think there is something energetically in the charging that makes a better sitter. So
Oh, for sure. For
yeah,
sure.
so I've been talking to my students about the fact that when you're in a development group, it's always weird because the need isn't there. So you
Yeah.
don't get as much charge in a reading, energetic charge, because there isn't a need. It's the need is with the medium and their development. It's not with the sitter and fulfilling the need in them. So I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when you put it that way, I agree with you. Like, have you ever found when you give a reading away or it's the weirdest thing, right? It's not, yeah,
The
the energy.
people that, the majority, and this is not all of them,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
majority of people that get free tickets, free
yeah.
readings, or free access to my courses do not turn up.
Same, same.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
And I think it's just the energy, because they haven't really got that need. They're not prioritizing it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I stopped doing gift vouchers. I don't know if you do gift vouchers.
I have never really loved doing it. I usually do a few, but yeah, I'm like grilling the people before. Are you sure they want it? Is this
Yes.
something they asked for? Have they expressed to you specifically that they would love to do this? Because otherwise, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just a,
absolutely not. It's horrible. Horrible.
yeah.
I did one lady on Zoom who was like washing up and cooking and not even paying attention to me.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
just thought, I took them off, never again. If someone wants it, they can buy it for themselves. Like, I'm not getting into
Yeah.
that.
Buy
So
it, book it, send someone else. Done.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. So that's such an interesting journey and
Mm.
unique. But of course, the seeds were already sowed. You're Reiki master, so you're already working with energy. You're already getting the call to healing. You've already got that awareness. Reiki obviously helps your connection to spirit. So
Mhm.
you might say you didn't have the training, but you did.
Yeah, I think I did. Again, it was really just I didn't know that mediumship was subtle because of television. I thought it was the like, the apparition or
Yeah.
the light streaming down from the clouds. So
You,
once I yeah, being tapped, the
yeah.
doors
Hello.
slamming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah. Uh, so once I just learned about the psychic senses, you
Done.
know,
Job's a
that
good one.
like, oh, that's it. Okay, well then I can do that.
I love it.
I did start a little bit with psychometry. I found that to be really helpful in the very, very beginning, but that, I stopped doing that early on. But yeah, I would just hold their necklace or a ring or
Yeah.
something. But then I started to get worried that I was just going to pick up more on them and not their loved ones. So I stopped.
Yeah. You got to
Yeah.
find what's right for you. And that's always a risk with psychometry, isn't it? So
For sure. Yeah.
fascinating. And you are like me. And I can tell this because you did one reading and then did a group. You are a platform medium,
Oh.
um, team platform. Eh, Tell to
Yeah.
us about your journey with platform, because I know that, I mean, I see you doing amazing work online. You've got, big audiences. You're out there doing your thing. Talk to us about it.
I love it. And it's so weird because, my previous non-medium life, like getting up in front of a crowd of people was the last thing you would see me do. So I think I'm proud of myself. I'm just going to say I'm proud of myself for
Good.
doing that. But as you know, when you're up there, it's not really you, uh, you're, you're being used by spirit. So I love the beginning of starting to do groups because I'm going to say maybe 2 years in. I've been doing this for 8 years now. And I think 2 years in, one day I woke up and I said, okay, spirit, I'm ready to do groups. Send me a group. And the next day I got an email from a bed and breakfast, and they wanted me to come do sort of like a wine and dine with spirit where they would eat first and then I
Oh,
would do.
nice.
And I was like, okay, and I think that it's equal, right? You can go out and create experiences for yourself, or you can ask spirit to guide you. But I
Yeah.
did get to a certain point where I was like realizing that I was uncomfortable booking venues and showing up on my own, and instead of just being invited somewhere.
Yeah.
So that was another up leveling experience of just
So
showing, just doing what I want to do. I enjoy it. I love it. It's yeah.
so you prefer it when the venue contacts you and books you?
No, I used to. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
okay, right.
It was
Sorry,
like
getting.
it was a
I was
few,
like,
I
how have you
want to
managed that?
say,
What? I have to book
no,
every
no, no, no.
venue.
Sorry. Sorry, I kind of slipped into that. No, like I was saying is in the beginning, I was
Yes.
invited
Sorry.
different places, and the progression from realizing that it's okay to book a venue on your own and just show up
Yeah,
has
got you.
happened
Sorry.
more in the last few years. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Because people always say to me, like, how have you made this? And I did used to. really buy into law of attraction. I'm in a different space with it right now. I'm working through some stuff with it, but I think some of it is to do with stepping up and creating it yourself.
Exactly.
And yeah, so it's fascinating. So you're
Mhm.
off, you're doing your thing, you've got all, and you seem quite, your venues are attractive and nice looking venues. Is that a
Usually.
conscious choice? Not always.
It's tough finding a venue, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point now where when I contact a new venue, straight up, I ask them, the first question is, I'm a medium. Is my line of work welcome in your space?
Yeah.
You know, other than looking at the photos and making sure it's beautiful and capacity and all that technical stuff. Is my line of work welcome in your space? And some people say no, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I don't care. But it's got to be, I have to feel welcome. I have to feel like at least there's a shred of excitement that I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference. Yeah.
It's so
It does
funny.
help. You can't
Sorry?
do churches. Do you find that you can't do, like, I can't rent a church? You know, there's just a lot of places that are just a no. So sometimes I do find it challenging, but
Yeah,
uh,
there's a lot of places that are nervous. And then there's, I mean, we were driving past yesterday with my husband. We were driving past this beautiful village hall, and it's so stunning. It's medieval or something. It's really old in the UK. Now, you would think that this beautiful medieval historic property is the best place for mediumship. It's
mm,
the energy in there is as flat as a
yeah,
pancake,
mm,
and I can't work there. And my husband went, well, did you give it enough goes? I went there 4 times because it's so beautiful. I kept really trying, but it just never had that. You know, some nights are good, some nights are
yeah.
not so good,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of that is to do with the energy of the space, and that one for me is just a no.
100%. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what you think makes a good platform medium.
Oh, geez. Well, I think that there should be a mix of laughter and tears. I do try, and you know, don't want to just talk about myself, but something that I try to bring is that humor, because I don't want people to leave depressed.
No.
You know, especially people who didn't receive a reading. If the whole thing is heavy and, you know, I want people to leave uplifted. So I think that that's really important. I think it should be fun. I think it should be magical. I think that um I think that the medium should be just authentically themselves
Mhm.
and, you know, vulnerable and showing up as who they are, and just doing their best and letting people know that it's all, like you say all the time, just an experiment,
Yeah.
and being willing to be wrong, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Agree.
because it's weird, right? It's entertainment, but it's
Yeah.
not but it is entertainment.
Well, I
It's a
think platforms should be entertaining,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
otherwise, I mean, I've seen mediums that have got a far better evidence than I get, no
Mhm.
doubt. But honestly, you're falling asleep. You know,
Yeah,
you've disengaged so much, you don't even know if it's your loved one because you're literally asleep with your eyes
yeah,
open trying to be
yeah.
polite.
I'm
So
sure I've done that to people before. Because sometimes you get such in a, you know, like you're just going and you don't take a step back and realize. I'm
yeah,
sure I've done that to people.
yeah.
But
So
yeah, learning to move around on the stage more. You've given me some tips on that, you know, where to stand and things like that. So
yeah. But
making
it
it,
is, you're right, it is about being entertaining, because then you also get the energy of the audience, and
yeah,
then the energy of the audience
yes,
makes better mediumship, and so on and so forth.
yes.
So there is an important part to that. And I believe that anybody can communicate with spirit, but I don't believe that everybody should be a platform medium. And I think certainly in the UK, when you're learning through churches or in the centres, it's got a real focus on platform mediumship, but it's not the path for everybody. Some people are better on one-on-one. And
Hmm.
I'm a lot in a one-on-one. You have to decide if you want it or not, you know? So
Yeah.
it's finding again what works for you. How much do you find that the vibration of the audience shifts and changes? Do you find that you have different feelings, different experiences?
Throughout one evening or throughout different events?
Different events, one evening, whatever you want, go
Gosh.
for it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's interesting, right? I love how you've said in some of your episodes about, if you get a really heavy spirit person and message in a group, you'll say, okay, now I need a fun, uplifting message to bring the audience back up, because you can feel it, right? You get 150 people in a room, you can feel, a tragic passing. We're talking about heavy things. You can feel the energy kind of go down there. So I love that advice that you give as well. And I've started doing that because of
Good.
you. But
Yeah, it's
I've
such a thing.
yeah. One thing that I have stopped doing or allowing at my events is alcohol. I found that it has really impacted the energy of the room. And, of course, people can drink before they come, but I no longer serve alcohol at my events.
Interesting.
Had people drink quite a bit during events, and yeah, it just has never gone well. So that's, I'm still kind of recovering from, like, okay, were those hard events where the energy was a little bit wonky or hard because of those, experiences with alcohol or what? But there's so many factors, right? The venue, the time of year, the time of day, the day of the week. Like, I feel like all of these things are factors that affect the energy. So
Yes.
I like Thursday night because it feels like a weekend, but it's not a weekend. So not
My
everyone's
favorite night.
right. I like venues that have lots of natural light, but it doesn't matter. Spirit's going to show up anyway. Like you said, it's some are easy, some are not so easy. I have a few that I really do cringe when I think about them.
Oh, yeah. But that's the platform journey. If you were
Yeah.
saying to me, I've never had any difficulties, I'd be like, right, that's it, I quit. I'll be like, she's not getting any difficulties. I'm over here in a
Oh.
quagmire,
You know
drowning.
what? What I really like, and I know you've experienced this before, is when you're going on and on and on trying to identify who the spirit is for someone in the audience. And those experiences when someone's not raising their hand and speaking up are so helpful, because one evening that was happening, and finally I said, okay, spirit, I'm going to have to directly find this person myself. So now I'm just going to literally, I said to the whole audience, I'm going to stare you all down until I find this person, because I know what I'm getting from spirit. And finally, the spirit just said that person right there. So I think the hard times, when you can just go, okay, it's you. Do you understand this? And they say, yes. I just, I wasn't thinking of it in that way, or I was confused, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All of those tough times, you learn so much from them, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a night where everyone said no all night, but now I don't settle. Now I don't settle. So
Well,
now
this
when
is
when
it.
no one puts their hand up, I don't go, oh, okay,
It
fair
must be.
enough. I go, it's for one of you. And then I threaten to lock them in. And that will make them sit up and pay attention a little bit better. So
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
that. You have to kind of go through that. I think platform in particular, you have to really love it because it's such a vulnerability. And I see sometimes people when they're teaching and they say everyone should be on platform, everyone should do this, and I think, well, no, because it is a lot, and you've got to be very strong. I mean, I wasn't strong when I started, but I have found strength through determination and getting in there. So it's fascinating. So what are your top tips for somebody who wants to start doing platform, to take those steps to get out there?
Top tips. Well, I would say that it's, you'll know when the time is right. So if you're feeling the time is right, then the time is right. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't need to overthink it any more than that. If you're being called to do it, then do it. I would say that, you find the venue, you find the location, start with whatever number comes to mind. Again, I think for me, a good number is like 50 to 70. I love bigger groups, but I find the energy of the people are more excited when it's 50 to 70 people. For me,
Yeah.
maybe you start with 10, you start with 20, whatever.
Yeah.
Just do it. I have a hard time with giving tips because I'm just a just do it type of person. So
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
like,
I'm making you think, what do I
yeah, I'm
do?
like, what would I say to someone else?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's why I like the questions on the podcast, because they actually get me to think about what I do, because otherwise I'm just doing it. I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I think that I have this like positive and negative trait where I don't think a whole lot about things
yeah,
before I do them. So,
good.
sometimes that gets me in trouble, but other times I think you kind of need to be that way as a medium. You need to not be overthinking things because otherwise you would just make a mess of everything.
Yeah,
So,
you'd build up so much resistance in your energy that you'd never be able to get any form of communication.
and
So
what do
have
you have
you
to lose, right? Like,
no,
what do
sorry,
you
I
have
missed that.
to lose if
Yeah,
you,
yeah, you do. You do.
you
So do you ever doubt your abilities? Do you ever have crises of faith, doubt the spirit world? I know I've just been listening to your podcast, Spirit Cool, and hearing your experiences in a physical mediumship event. And obviously that's something that I'm fascinated with at the moment, because I can't quite line up where I want it to be with where it actually is in reality in the UK. But you've
Mhm.
had some incredible experiences in it. But do you ever have sort of moments where you doubt yourself, you doubt the spirit world, or are you
I
just in?
I I definitely doubt myself. I think that the times when I feel worried about my mediumship or my ability to deliver quality mediumship is when my life is a mess, my personal life, of course, right? You have to be able to either completely block off from your personal life sometimes or have it in order.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that spirit has ever failed me. There's never been a time that they haven't shown up. There's never been a time where I've questioned my ability to connect with them. No.
You're
I
lucky.
just I mean I think what happens, and this is where, Hannah, I think that you're such a trusted mediumship teacher for me, even though we haven't done much work together. I love your podcast, and I can see that the people who are receiving training through you are in good hands. And something that's always really scared me is some of the mediumship trainings that I've seen, or anytime I've ever doubted myself. The reason I'm saying this is because I've had someone else's voice in my head
Mm-hmm.
that's been shitty advice, or maybe it's something that worked for them but not for me, and I've held myself to a standard that I think is not even actually realistic or possible, or not even the standard that the other medium that said this is holding themselves to. And I know
Yeah.
you've talked about this before. So anytime that I've ever had trouble or insecurities, and it's so interesting how it could go on for like a month, and then finally I go, oh, that's
Yeah.
because I read that comment. That's because I read that post, and I've started judging myself. I've started, those
Yeah.
things where sometimes you don't realize where it's originating from. That happens.
That's
But
really interesting. That's a really interesting point. And I really just want to stop and really delve into that, because I think that we forget that, don't we? We forget how much we're absorbing all of the
yeah,
time, and the little energetic wounds that we're getting,
yeah,
especially in the uber sanitized social
yeah,
media and TV presentation of mediumship, but also from teachers that want to keep the power for themselves.
yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and it just, I think as a sensitive person, it just takes reading one comment or watching one clip of a video. I one thing that was really damaging for me that made me question how good I am, or how, the quality of my mediumship was, I heard a teacher medium just on Facebook in a video. She said that as a medium, you should be able to read anybody. no matter how skeptical they are, no matter how closed off they are, if they're sitting with their arms crossed and an angry look on their face, it's not about them. You should be able to read anybody. And so I really took on that perspective for a good while.
Mhm.
And I think that in some ways, maybe there's truth to that, because spirit will always show up.
Yeah.
I don't ever doubt that. But it's, it's like you've said, the triangle. There are three parts to this recipe. And if the sitter's energy is off, that's not me.
Yeah.
It's
There's a
not
limit.
me.
Yeah.
So I beat myself up for so long thinking that I should be able to, like, it should always work. So things like that, have gotten in my head. And
Yeah.
oh,
That's
when
so
you
funny, because I'm midway recording an episode of the podcast that's going to come out a few weeks before this interview comes out, weirdly. There's no time and space, it's all just the oneness. And
yeah.
part of that is, as I was saying to you before we hit record, about the Fake Psychic podcast. And you've just really beautifully lined up with what I've been experiencing, which was, it gave me a complete crisis of faith. It gave me a, oh my God, am I just deluded? I mean, I know I'm not a scammer. I know I'm not doing it. There's much more lucrative ways that I could do things than this. But I also, am I insane? Am I just hopeful? And to be through that. And then I did my demonstration, and then back in the power, back in the energy. Oh, here we are. It feels like home, no doubt again. But we have to go through these things. And you're right, it's energy from other people's stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, I think with that point of that teacher, that specific point, I just want to really say, but there are some people here who are supposed to be disconnected from spirit.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be skeptical. They have chosen a life where they have no connection and no belief in the spirit world. Their soul has chosen that. And no amount of my ego wanting validation means that I should give them a spirit link when they're shut off.
Yeah, exactly. And also, the way that someone receives the information is going to be completely different because they're not open. So you could say the same thing and, to an open person or a closed off person,
Yeah.
and they're not, it's never going to work. So yeah.
I love
There's
it.
things like that, but
Oh, you have such a great way of looking at things. So talk to us about how you experience spirit. What does it feel like for you when you're making that connection?
I think that it's different for each spirit person that comes close. But for the most part, if I'm doing a private reading, even on the stage, I just simply feel into my body. I think that I'm very clairsentient. So, I first try to drop into my heart space and just feel my energy, and then that sense of someone, as we say, stepping close, even though they're not in a body, someone will step close. And I just try to treat it as if I've just met a real person, because we have, for the first time, So if you've just been introduced to somebody, you're not going to say, tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets.
Absolutely.
So there's that sort of slow unfoldment of, oh, I see that you're a man. Oh, I see, and it's just, I, something I really ponder a lot is, are the psychic senses separate? I don't think that they're, you're only seeing and you're only hearing and you're only feeling and you're only knowing. I think that it is an all around experience. And I don't think that spirit is trying to only show me something visually. I think that they are just a complete, energy system, whatever they are. The intelligence of them is showing up, and my body, my receiving system is, picking out, okay, I see this, and I hear this, and I'm separating them. So I tend to really try not to do that. Actually,
Yeah.
I try to just, what's happening. Let me feel you. Let me know as much as I possibly can. Let
Yeah.
me get out of the way as much as I possibly can, so that our souls can blend. And it's a beautiful experience, as you know.
Yeah. It is. And I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm not big on the clairs anyway. It's a good for understanding how you
Yeah.
might receive information,
Yeah.
except for when we get people saying clairaudient and they think it's a separate voice from their head, which most of the time it isn't. But
Exactly.
apart from that, really, the information's there. And people will sometimes say to me, "How did you get that?" And I'm like, "I don't even know.
Yeah. It's just there.
It was just there."
Yeah.
So yeah, I love to hear you say that, because that's how it is for me as well. Every now and again I'll be like, I'm tasting something or I'm smelling
Oh, for
something, but
sure.
yeah, but most of the time it is, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's just there. I'm in the power I can't really remember.
Mhm.
So I love that. And have you got an example, a story? And I know you're going to shy away from this because you're very humble, but have you got a story of an experience, of a bit of evidence that you had that was really, you were like, yeah, chef's kiss?
Hmm. You know, Hannah, it's really hard for me because I I don't remember my readings. It's like in the beginning I used to, I think because it was so new and shocking and like wow,
Yeah.
wow. And it's not that that has worn off. I'm still so in love with the whole process of the readings. Um but there's just
I know. I don't really remember mine either. And the ones that I remember are the ones where I've come out of my power a bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Like,
generally just don't remember. I know, yeah.
yeah. I remember the ones where no one could take it because my human stepped
Exactly.
in and went, "You're a fraud." And then I
Yeah.
was out of my power. So then I remember it because,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you want to talk about
exactly.
the crappy ones? We can talk about the times when, I think, yeah, I like, and that's what I like about when something makes sense later, right?
Yeah.
Because I had someone email me the other day. Actually, he left me a voicemail as well to say 2 years later, I finally figured out who that woman was that was coming through in my reading.
Wow.
So things like that are what's kind of making my day these days because I'm not
Yeah.
remembering a whole lot, but I do remember when things go wrong. So then when you get those phone calls or those messages where something finally makes sense, I like stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. Because also, you've not picked it up psychically because they're
Right.
not aware of it.
She
So
was passed,
yeah.
right? He didn't even know she had passed till 2 years later. So, and I even gave a name. There was like very specific stuff, but he was like, I don't know who that is. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
What is one thing that you wish that every member of your audience knew before they came to see you?
I wish that everyone knew that your loved ones are just with you. I think it's really fascinating to me how I could do, a 2-hour event and then at the end I'll take questions and someone will raise their hand and they'll say, "Is there anyone with me?" I'm like, "What have we been doing all night?" Yes, they're with you. Yes. I find it fascinating that people still doubt and question for themselves
Yeah.
that their loved ones are potentially not with them. And I just wish people just automatically accepted it.
Yeah, for sure. But then I wish that I automatically accepted it, that spirit are
Yeah.
with me, and I'm still fighting it half the time like a bucking bronco. So yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, for me, it's that thing where if you could, you would give a message to every person in that room. But that
Mhm.
is not what a demonstration is for.
Mhm.
And so it's also those ones where they feel like they've been like rejected. And that, where's my dad? He said he'd
Yeah.
come. And you're like, well, he's with you, but I just haven't got enough. So it's always, I think, a fascinating thing being a demonstrating medium, because being an empath as well, which you have to be to do mediumship, you can feel the people when they leave and they're like
Oh, yes.
sad, and that's something that had to really toughen me up. I used to go home and cry
Yeah.
for all the people that I
Yeah.
hadn't been able to work for,
Yeah.
and you can't. So if I was in front of you right now, complete beginner, and I said, "Jeni, I really want to be a medium. What's my next step?"
Well, I would say to you that if you're asking or having that desire, then that probably means that you should do that.
Yeah.
And I would say to start asking spirit, your guides or your loved ones in spirit, to start showing you signs. I think
Okay.
that I know that that's complicated for some people. They say, I've been asking for years and I never get the sign that I want. So, um, but I think we can be specific. I think we can say, show me a feather or whatever it is, but be general if you need to. And I would tell you to ask yourself why. If you want to be a medium, why do you want to be a medium? What is and it's okay to say because I think it's cool and because I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
I think that I when I asked myself that question in the beginning, it was, the answer is always because I want to help people. Of
Yeah.
course you want to help people, or you wouldn't be asking that question, but why else?
Yeah.
What else about it? Because it's not easy.
No.
So do you want to, have every part of yourself dug up, and all of your insecurities and all of your fears and worries, and, even right down to like how you look and how you show up in the world and what your voice sounds like, and like all of these things. I think that we really don't pat ourselves on the back enough for how hard of a job it is. And it's a beautiful, like, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed, but you have to be strong. So
Yes.
I would say, why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
You
Are
can
you
do
sure?
it. Believe in yourself.
I
Yeah.
mean, but
But
equally, I'm so glad I didn't know when I started how the path was going to be,
yeah,
because
I
I
know.
think
Let's
I'd have
not
run.
spoil it for people.
Yeah, I'd have run screaming into the woods and gone, forget it.
Yeah.
And so it's not all at once either. That happens in stages. You don't deal with every single thing that needs pulling into the light about yourself on a Saturday afternoon.
No,
It takes
yeah.
years of
Yeah.
reflection and self-reflection. You have to be willing to sit with yourself. There's
Yeah.
no escaping you in mediumship.
Mhm.
Love it. So I will put a link to your website into the show notes so that everybody can check you out. As I said at the beginning, I know that you are full until 2024 for readings, but people can join your waiting list, listen to your podcast. And of course, if you're in Canada, you might want to check out some of Jeni's events. Thank you very much.
Thank you.